Hello YouTube chess lovers and my friends, this is Gunjan here. Welcome to the 34th episode of Dirty Chess Tricks. In this episode, I am going to show you an amazing tricky line against Modern Benoni defense and in fact a mini replica against it. The opening arises after the following move order, that is d4, knight to f6, c4, c5. Now white grab the space on the queen side with d5. And accordingly, black challenged the white center with the move e6. After knight to c3, pawn captures, and the move d6. In the opening, black has voluntarily created a weakness, but in return, he gets a tremendous tactical and the sharp activity. Well, the line I am going to propose in this video not only contains a lot of tricks, but as per my research, there is hardly any refutation of this line. So it will be a great surprise weapon for you. Here I propose that white should continue with the move knight to f3. And even though black has plenty of choices in this position, I think more than 90% of your opponent are going to continue with the move g6. As you can see by the database, this is most popular choice by the black. So let's see what happens when black continue with the main line, that is g6. White will continue with knight to d2, bishop to g7 and knight to c4. So after a long route, this knight has reached to a very good outpost where it can pressurize the d6 square, and after the move castle, the mainline move over here is bishop to f4, which involves a lot of theory. But as usual, we are going to surprise our opponent with this wonderful move, bishop to g5. Now, as I have highlighted over here, black has plenty of choices, but against each of them, white has some nasty ideas. h6 is the mainline move, and once again, if you check this position in database, you will find out that it has been played highest, combining with other queen and the rook moves. So let's see each by turn. The first move I want to consider is the mainline move, that is h6. Well, believe it or not, but h6 at this position is not an accurate move, and the simple refutation is white will continue here with bishop to f4, attacking d6. So black response is force. Black has to play knight to e8 in order to guard the d6 square. And white initiative will really continue from here onwards with queen to d2. So attacking h6. If your opponent plays g5, then he is going to severely weak the light square around his king. And I have attached a sample game in the PGN where white quickly demolished the black opponent. So the more natural looking move over here is king to h7, guarding the h6. But now comes the very surprising and a very strong move, knight to b5. And there are three pieces attacking on d6, and there is no third defender for the black. And if this is the main line, then line is looking so good for the white. Okay, let's continue from here onwards. The best reply by the black as confirmed by the professional chess engine, that is f5. So black is aiming to play g5 and f4 and grabbing the bishop. But the simplest way to play here is take the pawn with the bishop, and after knight takes and knight takes, white just in the 14th move come out with a pawn advantage, and those knights are wonderfully placed. There are not many games played from here onwards, but as confirmed by the engine, this position is quite pleasant for the white in almost all the variations, and I have attached a sample line in the PGN which will give you a very good idea how to create winning attack from here onwards. So it is very clear that h6 leads to the pawn drop. So how about other moves? The first dubious move I want to consider is Rook to e8, which to my surprise played more often, but after the one simple reply, Knight to b5, the same problem from the black camp, how he is going to defend the d6 square. And you can check it by yourself, it's not easy to play as a black from this position. The base response goes as follows, that is bishop to d7, knight b captures d6 attacking the rook. Black plays the counter-attacking move b5, but after knight captures, queen captures, bishop captures f6, bishop captures f6, knight to d2. Finally, black grabs a pawn with bishop captures b2, but after rook to b1, bishop to c3 and the move e3, after the whole sequence, white emerge with extra exchange, and I don't think so there is any sort of compensation for the black. The third move I want to consider is a6, which has a simple idea to expand on the queen side with b5 and also stopping knight to b5 ideas. So white response is force, white will continue with a4. And here the most popular choice is h6 because black has stopped the knight to b5 idea. So now this move looks exceptionally strong. Well, that's true, but the downside is after bishop to f4, knight to e8. Yes, indeed, knight to b5 has been stopped, but this position creates another problem in the black camp, that is queen to d2, king to h7, and now a5. Black would love to play here knight to d7 to safeguard the b6 square. The problem here is the d6 pawn hangs, and after knight captures and bishop captures, white emerge with an extra pawn and a winning advantage. And instead of knight to d7, if your opponent plays any other moves, let's say queen to c7, then after knight to b6 and rook to a7, that rook will not see a daylight for a long time. The fourth move I want to consider is queen to e7, which is again the second most popular choice by the black. And against it, my recommendation is white should continue with the move queen to d2. Now if your opponent plays slow moves such as rook to d8 or the move b6, then white has a very simple plan to execute, that is f3 and e4, and grab a tremendous space in the center, and maybe white can look forward for the kingside attack. A sample line can run like this: rook to d8, f3, knight b to d7, e4, knight to e5, queen to f4, bishop to d7, knight captures, queen captures, and now pawn captures. And after the whole sequence, not only white has an outright passer on the d file which cannot be stopped, but white also has this bishop pair, which is a great asset in such endgames. So accordingly, the mainline move over here is knight b to d7, which has a very simple idea to put the knight as quickly as possible on the e5 square. But I think this move has a great drawback, as white can quickly get pressure on the d6 square with queen to f4. No surprise that, just like other lines, there is not a single defender coming to rescue the d6 square. The best response here is rook to d8, but just for your knowledge, in case if your opponent continue here with knight to e5, then after the following continuation, that is knight captures, pawn captures, queen to d2, b6, and the move e4, we have the same kind of scenario except there is a queen on the board. So that's why knight to e5 is not a good idea by black. As per the engine, the best response here is rook to d8, so giving up the pawn in return for the activity. But I think even in this continuation, white obtain a slight advantage. A sample line can run like this: queen captures d6, queen captures d6, knight captures d6, and now black reveal his nasty idea, that is knight to b6, not only attacking the knight, but there's a 3-time attacks on the d file. So white response is force. White has to capture this piece, and after rook captures, white can simply defend the d file with e4. Okay, black plays rook to e8. So now there's a double hit on e4 as well as on the d5 square. And white cannot defend both the thing. So white has to return the pawn with castle on the queen side. But after knight captures, rook captures, and the move d6. Even though material balance has been restored, I think this position is quite pleasant to play as a white. The simple reason is white has a bishop pair and this pawn is only 2 squares away from the queening. I have attached a sample line in the PGN which will give you a very good idea how to create a winning attack from this position. Considering all the 4 options before, I think here black's best response is queen to d7, but I don't think so many of your opponent will find this. So black has a very simple idea to play b5 and get rid of this superb knight. So white needs to stop it with the move a4. And now black has 2 popular choices in this position. The first move I want to consider is b6, which looks very natural because black's planning is to play bishop to a6 and get rid of this bad bishop. But here comes the super surprise, that is e4. Once again we reach to a crossroad where if black plays slow moves such as rook to e8 or bishop to a6, then white is all set to play f3 and get our familiar attacking pattern. You can check it out a sample line in the PGN. But the more critical move over here is what happens if your opponent plays this obvious looking move, knight captures e4, destroying the center pawn, and what else you can hope for as a black. Yup, indeed it looks very attractive, except there is one problem, that white is completely winning in all the possibilities. Okay, first white will grab this piece and black will try to regain this piece with rook to e8, and after the move f3, f5 is an obvious choice which nab the piece back. Before I move on, I like you to pause this video and find a continuation where white is completely winning. Did you find it? Let's see. Can you see this wonderful blow? Bam! Well, it's a clearance sacrifice. So right now white is attacking 2 spots. So black response is force. Black has to take this knight. And now white reveal his nasty idea, that is bishop to b5. Double attacking queen and a rook. Black has to move the queen. So queen to f7. And now very strong move, castle on the king side. If black foolishly take this knight, then after f captures e4, this queen can no longer protect the rook and white will be a simply exchange up. So that's why here the forced response is rook captures e4, but after pawn captures, with the naked eye we can easily conclude here that white emerged with an exchange up and a far better position. The second and the most obvious response I want to consider is knight to a6. Well, after that, you guessed it, white's next move. Yup, we are going to continue with e4, and as usual, if your opponent plays slow moves such as rook to e8, b6 or knight to b4, then we can continue with f3, our great solid and attacking setup. So once again, the critical response is what happens if knight captures e4 in this variation. Well, white move order doesn't change because we are going to capture this knight, and after rook to e8, there's one game on the internet where white continue with knight to d2 and lose horribly. But instead of that, my recommendation is you play this strong move, queen to e2. Well, at first sight it doesn't look pretty because after f5, the situation looks more horrible. But believe it or not, it all tactically justified. The winning combination start with knight captures d6, attacking the rook. And the good point is, now this rook has to leave the e file. If f captures e4, then the simplest is knight captures e8, and after queen captures, once again white emerge with an extra exchange. So that's not good for the black. So the first response here is rook to f8. Afterwards, in the view of both of the knights are hanging, white response is forced. White has to take this bishop. Black has to take the knight on c8, because if you capture the knight on the e4, then knight to e7 coming back in the game with a devastation. So rook to c8, and still it looks like white cannot save his piece, because you cannot move the knight, as rook to e8 will appear on the board. But here comes the star move, queen to b5. If black take the queen, then after a captures b5, white is counter-attacking the black knight. So the only good reply here for the black is to play queen to e8, still maintaining the pin. But after castle on the queen side, queen captures d6. So that pawn is only 2 squares away from the queening. So black has to do something about this bishop on the g5 square. So the best response here is h6. But after the following simplest continuation, that is d7 attacking the rook, pawn captures bishop, pawn captures rook with a check, rook captures, and the sting in the tail, queen check, which will not only exchange the queen, but after the whole long transaction, white emerge with an extra exchange. Well, I hope you enjoy this wonderful tricky line against Modern Benoni, which not only contain a lot of tricks, but the theory of the black side is not up to date, and you can snatch some great victories in this line. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to like, subscribe and comment on my video, and I'll meet you in my next episode very soon. Bye and take care.